1 on innovations in distance learning, and 6 as volumes of general knowledge. He has more than 100 publications, primarily in the areas of physics and mathematics education, and open and distance learning in the form of research papers, articles, edited literature in national and international journals of repute. He has been holding memberships of the statutory bodies of different universities. He takes keen interest and has been delivering illustrated talks at different parts of the country on diverse topics, some of which are science and technology for development, scientific temper, teaching of science and mathematics, science in sports, frontiers of astronomy and astrophysics, Swami Vivekananda's concept of education, Tagore's views on education and community development, emerging dimensions of learner supported open and distance learning, and use of technology in education. I welcome you, sir, to today's session, and I'm eagerly waiting to listen to you. We also have with us Dr. Om Prakash Sharma, Director NCID. Before I invite Dr. Ghosh, I would request Dr. Sharma to say a few words, please. Dr. Sharma.
Thank you, Dr. Mamita Das, and good morning to all. I'm really very happy to see Professor C.K. Ghoshji in today's session. We have worked very closely. I have learned a lot from him, and listening to him was always a pleasure. Thank you very much, sir, for sparing time to address the students and choose such a very important topic today. Uh, we have been organizing several programs on innovation, startup entrepreneurship for last few years, and always this has been a very pertinent question from the student side that how to start this for the startup, what how that idea can be converted into startup, what kind of problems are there, what kind of initiatives I should take, where to start, who will be guiding me. That several types of questions are there in the minds of the students. And the first thing is how to begin with this. They have now developed that interest towards setting up their enterprise or startups, but the first very important thing is how to begin with it. They have very brilliant ideas. We have listened to their ideas. We have seen what kind of innovative ideas they are having. But if they want to convert that into a startup, then what is the entire journey in this context? I hope in that context, your talk will be very enlightening for them, will be helping them in taking their idea further to convert it into a startup. So, with that, I once again welcome you and thank you very much for deliberating this talk on this very important topic, starting for the startups. Thank you very much. And I also welcome all the participants, the students, and the members, faculty members. So, over to you, Dr. Mamta.
Thank you, Dr. Sharma. Now I invite our expert, Dr. Chinmay Kumar Ghosh, to take today's session on the topic, getting started with startups. Sir.
Good morning, everybody. It is indeed a pleasure and privilege to be in this platform and share my thoughts and experiences with this topic, getting started with startup. Before I speak anything on the topic proper, I'd like to extend my heartfelt gratitude to all the members of NCID led by Dr. O.P. Sharma. I have worked so intimately with them, Dr. Sharma, Dr. Josna Dikshit, Dr. Momita Das, Dr. Sujata Santos, and it's indeed a pleasure being here with all of them, and in particular with all the extended family of Indira Gandhi National Open University. I'm in very close touch with this center, and I'm aware of the developments, and particularly, uh, I think a couple of days back we saw the launch of that ebook. I was a very small part of that conference, which was organized so meticulously by NCID, and it was a real pleasure seeing the coming up of the ebook. It has been a very, very professional task, and I congratulate the entire team of NCID for having developed that. The And we also get to know the developments from the Innovate periodically which comes out. And so this it is nice to see the center moving, a center with which I was so intimately connected. When I was asked to deliver it on such a topic, well, let me give a disclaimer at the very beginning that I do not have any direct experience. I have also learned from different sources or from other persons who have been involved in such enterprises. So I'll be talking only from the point of view of that. As Dr. Momita Das gave a list of items on which I have been talking, maybe at different parts of the country, but that had not included anything on entrepreneurship and startups. Perhaps I am also getting started with that with this particular talk, so you'll have to bear with me. Uh, so I have prepared some slides, and I'll base my talk on the slides. So I'll share the screen now. Is it visible? Is it
Yes,
visible?
sir. Yes, sir. It's
Is the
visible.
full screen visible?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Okay, okay. So this is the topic, getting started with startups. Now, in the first slide, you can see one Will Schrotter. He is a serial entrepreneur. He founded his first company, Blue Diesel, as a 19-year-old student at the Ohio State University. So, see the particular expression that has been used, that he is a serial entrepreneur. So, that means going into the business of entrepreneurship, going into this activity of entrepreneurship, is nothing which should intimidate you. If somebody can start entrepreneurship from the age of 19, so it is quite doable. In 2012, Will founded startups.com, the world's largest startup launch platform, and it has since been used by over 1 million startup companies globally. So, see what is the mantra. It is said that a startup is a living embodiment of a founder's dream. Founder means one who founded the startup, and it is a living embodiment of founder's dream. I stress on this particular word, dream, and I'll be making reference to that time and again in course of my talk. Now, as Dr. Sharma has very rightly pointed out, and I have attended some of the lectures where people come out with excellent experiences, and then it was felt perhaps at the center that we should also try to tell our students or all those who intend to develop a startup that how to get started. And you start with these questions. What is a startup? How does it help us in bringing a change in our lives? Because that is what any founder or any person handling startup would try to reflect, that this was a situation in some arena X, and that arena X has now become X prime. X has changed to X prime, and in the process it has brought changes in our lives also. So how does it help in bringing a change in our lives? And why do we need to think about a startup? So these are the basic questions, and we should be ready. One who is going to start such an enterprise should be ready with the question, should be very clear in his or her mind about the answers to this question. There should not be any ambiguity. And finally, what are the qualities? Now, this particular question, I took the cue from Dr. Momita Dash, because she was telling me time and again that from the point of view of my experience, and particularly as a person who has been holding some responsible positions in the arena of education, so I have been able to meet a big cross section of students, pupils, and other stakeholders. So, what are the qualities one needs to imbibe in order to make a startup a success story with all cap? So, this is our goal, to make the startup a success story. Now, this is a definition given by Forbes.com. I am given the source that startups are young companies founded to develop a unique product or service, bring it to market, and make it irresistible and irreplaceable for customers. So, you might be wondering that what would be the difference with a business house or a business company. So, it has to be a very very unique product or service. Like, I knew of a printer in Kolkata, of course that's way back, a Radiant printer. So the only thing they were doing, you must all have used Brugman tea. So they would develop the entire packet, that is, Brugman tea will be a cubic shaped box. So there are six sides, and they will do all the printing and then putting it into the shape of a box. So it's a unique product. And I came to know that if they make a delay in the service of creating those boxes, then the service of Brookbond company will get delayed. So it's a unique product or service. You bring it to market, and then the other two expressions, irresistible and irreplaceable. Now, those are easier said than done, but you have to thrive for doing it in such a manner for the customers that it turns out to be irresistible and irreplaceable. And then the question, why do we need to think about startups? What it is going to do? Startup, of course, it's an entrepreneurship, and it's crucial because it brings new innovations. It brings new innovations, new jobs, and competitive dynamics into the business environment and enterprises. So these are the outcomes, expected outcomes of a startup. And this, you can say that it is not only developing your business world, but it is also bringing along with it in its trail new innovations. You get new ideas. It creates new jobs and the competitive dynamics into the business environment and enterprises. And then a great advantage of startups, you know, the job market these days, and almost every now and then we get to read in the newspaper about the employment problem, about the employment crisis, and uh, that it is unable to keep pace with the growing population that is trying to come into and trying to make a footstep into the job arena. So the opportunities from the government or semi-government or some such other enterprises, organizations are getting limited. So this is where you have to come up as an entrepreneur, and that would definitely have a potential to create new jobs. And finally, this is what I have felt, that they help us in realizing the goals of sustainable development. Now this is something which all of us should know. The 17 SDGs, the Sustainable Development Goals of the United Nations. Now, I'm not going to read out all of them, it's very much there on your screen, but you may take time to read it and try to relate them with startups. No poverty, poverty alleviation. Now, if something is able to create jobs, then it will definitely contribute towards poverty alleviation. It would also see that there are not going to be any starvation deaths. So, zero hunger. Good health and well being. Well, here I bring in an example of IGNOU. See, initially, the BSc nursing program of IGNOU is a flagship program, if I am permitted to say so. I don't know whether faculty of School of Health Sciences are there. It is their flagship program, and it started with that. And then when it started with programs where doctors were supposed to join, now initially it created a kind of confusion that how something like MBBS, people felt that it would be teaching MBBS, but no. The first program was postgraduate diploma in maternal and child health. So you have to first find out the need-based area, maternal health. So those who are taking admission are already doctors. And then by taking course in maternal health, taking course in child health, one can develop one's own entrepreneurship. So this is a particular area, and there are many such areas like healthcare waste management. That is again a program run by our School of Health Sciences. So this is again a need-based area. Now, if you go to the hospitals, I'm not only talking about super hospitals. Even the other day, I had taken an elderly person for his booster dose to a primary health center, and the situation, the cleanliness is of a much better quality than it used to be, say, 5 years before or 10 years before. And one of the reasons is that the aspect of waste management has been taken into account more seriously. So I was trying to strike a chord about the need based areas like maternal health, child health, healthcare waste management. And once you develop entrepreneurship in these areas, you are helping the cause of this third sustainable development goal, and as well as you are helping the cause for good health and well-being. Quality education, and this quality education is not going to the kind of student who would be reading the traditional subjects. The modern day eclavier, we say, is not only the one who, I'm talking about the normal situation. Let us, for the timing, forget about the pandemic, which had created this unprecedented existential crisis. In the normal situation, even the modern day eclavier is not the one who is going with his bag of books and pencils and pens and exercise books to the school and reading traditional subjects. He would also like to have competency based education, which has been emphasized so much by the National Education Policy 2020. And we need quality for that. And are there trained teachers for that? Of course, the NCRT and similar parallel organizations have taken steps to develop training areas for vocational studies. IGNOU also has courses in vocational studies. But for the entire student community, we need to provide quality education for these areas also, as we have been doing for the areas to which we all have been trained. So, like that, if you go through all the 17 goals, and they are very crucial, we all need to be aware about this and try to relate it with entrepreneurship, how entrepreneurship and startups can contribute towards the 17 sustainable development goals. Alternative and clean energy, affordable and clean energy. I know of an organization in Tripura. So what they are doing, in fact, of course, with things like urban clap coming, I am talking about my interaction with them, say about 7 to 8 years back, and they had developed a culture, at least in the city of Agartala, to provide services for sources having alternative energy like wind energy, mostly solar cooker, solar power. Now, if there is electricity failure in your house, you know whom to call, even without urban club being there. Nowadays, these things have become very easy, particularly in A-class cities or the next two-tier, second-tier cities with the presence of urban club. But with that not being there, at least we knew that if there is an electricity failure, whom to call. If your TV runs amok, you know whom to call. But if your solar cooker gets damaged, of your solar power set at the rooftop gets damaged, you have done it so meticulously to save energy, to use renewable sources of energy. But if there is a damage, how do you repair that? And that organization was working towards that. So these are the areas which you can very adequately relate with the idea of startups. And you know about the few initiatives which have brought difference in our lives. Swiggy, we are all aware of that. Big Basket, Zomato, Lens Cart that would come to your home and get you the lens you require for your eyes. Urban Company, the new name for Urban Clap. Ola Cabs, getting a transport for moving from one place to another within the city or even beyond the boundaries of the city has been made so easy. Now, after this slide, in fact, I'll request Dr. Momita Das to show you a video, but before that, I let me finish the discussion. Uh, Now, how do startups succeed? Because this is one question which bothers all of us, and whether it would at all succeed or not. While many startups will ultimately fail, but not all of them fail, not all do. For a startup to succeed, well, read this portion very carefully. Many stars must align and crucial questions be answered. So you always have to be in a position to raise questions and find answers. You have to develop questioning skills, which is seldom taught in our classroom. We are taught very good answering skills, the key books, notebooks, etc., which have been written very meticulously, but they only teach you answering skills, but you have to develop questioning skills, and these would be questioning skills for your life, because if you are an entrepreneur, your life depends on this particular enterprise. So crucial questions be answered. But before that, I have used another expression: many stars must align. Now, am I making any astrological reference? No, definitely not that. I was a little concerned about meaning of this particular phrase. Many stars must align. Many stars must align. Now, this relates to opportunity, but before we go to that, I'll request Dr. Momita Dash to play that video.
Sir, I would request to kindly stop sharing so that we can play the video, after which we will resume your slide.
Is it okay?
Yes, sir, it's okay. We are playing the video now.
Okay, I am unable to see the video.
We are just playing it, sir, in a moment.
Enrique to Maradona. Different class. Different class.
Please bear with us. We'll just play it again.
They talked about the great players of World Championship football. This man will be.
Is there any problem? Then I can continue.
There seems to be some problem, but please give us a second. We'll try again and then we'll let you know. Sir, I regretfully will not be able to play that.
Okay,
So
okay,
can
okay.
continue. Thank you.
Can I continue with the PowerPoint, or
Yes, sir. Please, please.
PowerPoint is visible?
Not yet, sir. Please
Okay, I
share it
think I'll
again.
have to again reshare, no?
Yes, sir.
To go back, then I think the full screen is not coming now, no?
No, sir. But that's okay.
Is,
We are able to see.
has it become full screen now?
No, sir.
Anyway,
Uh,
anyway,
but we can see very clearly.
So what
anyway.
you can do is you can stop presenting and then share the screen again. Then this might come.
It's not necessary. I think my fonts are sufficiently large. You will be
Yes,
able
sir.
to
Yes,
read
sir.
it.
Okay, sir.
Yeah. You'll not need lens cut for seeing the fonts. Uh, now, what I wanted you to be sensitized about this particular statement, many stars must align. Now, after seeing this particular statement, one may feel that it has some astrological context. Definitely not. It's definitely not with a capital D and N. It means that there must be an alignment between opportunities, and that's the reason I was trying to show you the video of the famous goal of the century by Diego Maradona in 1986 against England in the quarterfinal. It was an excellent goal. He gets the ball on the right flank. He basically plays with the left foot, and he dribbles past three defenders and then draws Peter Shilton out of the goal line and pushes the ball into the net, and always being marked. Now, if you recall, just exactly 5.5 minutes before this particular goal, another goal was scored, and that was that infamous hand of the god goal, again by Diego Maradona. And naturally, English team felt quite shattered because that decision should not have gone against them. So the entire defense, the entire team was in a little mentally down state, and Maradona took that advantage. So that was one opportunity. The next opportunity was, all since Maradona normally plays along the left flank because he plays with his left foot. His right foot he does not use much. He, I don't know whether all of you have observed that or not, that he would always be using his left foot, and so he comes towards the right side. So all his markers who were there, they also got perplexed, and that always used to happen with Maradona's movement. And then, more than anyone else, the goalkeeper Peter Shilton also was mentally down. He is a tall person. Maradona is short. Until Maradona managed to head that goal, of course, it was not a header. He did it with hand, and so all these things he took into account. And this means that he is dribbling past a player, but the player also getting deceived by his dribble is a part of the opportunity. And all the three players getting deceived, and Shilton getting drawn out of the goal line. So all these four things have aligned. And so it turned out to be an excellent opportunity. And so much so that it came to be known as the goal of the century. I would have loved you to see that. So it came to be known as the goal of the century. Now, why I'm comparing, it may appear to be a crude analogy, why I'm bringing this example in the case of startups, that any move in a football match taken by a team is an opportunity. But there is a big difference, and this difference is about an advantage of startups. That in the football match, your opponent will always try to thwart any opportunity you create. That is does not happen with startups. It may fail due to several other reasons, but no one will systematically try to thwart your move. But here the opponent team is systematically trying to thwart your attempts, to thwart your opportunities. And As in the case of startups, I was telling that most of them do not succeed. Many of them fail, but all do not. So in a football match, how many goals will be there? Two, three, four, five. Germany defeated Brazil by 7 goals to 1 in this 2014 semi-final. So there were 8 goals. So 8, 10 maximum. But throughout the 90 minutes, there would be opportunities galore. So this is a very important lesson, that don't think that if an opportunity has, if something, if your idea has failed, then you abandon it. You try other ways. You don't get demoralized. So this is what I mean. Many stars must align.
So,
Uh,
can we just try again with the video? If you can just.
but do you have the time? Because I have, I think,
Yes, sir.
we have
Yes.
the time.
Yes, sir.
If there is
I'll
time,
just try to play the video.
okay.
We'll try again, not get demoralized.
So should I stop share?
Yes,
You
please. Yeah, let me just give it another try. Is it visible, sir?
not to me.
Can anybody confirm?
It's
Not
now
yet.
coming up. Yes.
Yeah, now it is
Yes.
good.
Okay. Is it okay?
Yeah.
Yes, it is.
Okay.
Okay, but it is not coming on my screen. So should I get back to the PowerPoint?
Yes, sir. I think the quality is not that up to the mark. Kindly continue. Thank you, sir.
So that's what I meant to say by stating that many stars must align. One of my friends who is a sky watcher, he is a very passionate sky watcher. Now, what happened with him? See, he had to travel to Indore in the month of November. And if you recall, during the month of November, the Venus was seen in the southwest sky and it was very bright. So every day he was watching it from his roof. And then the day he had to travel to Indore, he had totally forgotten about that and he was upset. His flight got delayed by an hour. And what happens to a person if one's flight gets delayed by an hour? He is very upset, he is very disappointed. And then ultimately he had to board the flight. He boarded the flight, got a seat on the left side. Now try to understand the geography, traveling from Kolkata to Indore. And due to the delay in flight, otherwise it would have started at about 5. uh, Evening settles early towards the eastern part of the country, so it would have started at 5, but now it is taking off at 6. By the time it has become dark, my friend is sitting on the left window side, so he could see the sky, the southwest part of the sky, and he could see Venus. Then the other thing which aligned is that the sky was clear. Normally it doesn't remain that much clear, so even by his experience, he was saying that it was like a 50-watt bulb. But then it sets very quickly in Kolkata. But the flight was from Kolkata to Indore, so it was traveling southwest from Kolkata to Indore. It was traveling southwest. And so the effective time of setting of that Venus also got prolonged. And throughout the flight, he could enjoy seeing the bright Venus. How do you take it? I do not know. But to me, it is about uh, getting alignment between opportunities. Nothing to do with startups, but what I meant to say is that one has to look for one has to look for uh, all of a sudden getting an opportunity and how to make best possible utilization of that. He started with a disappointment. He never knew that he would be seeing the Venus on that particular evening, but he had seen and had seen for a long duration. So many things getting aligned, flight getting delayed, getting a seat on the left side, uh, the flight being from Kolkata to Indore, that is towards the southwest, and uh, Venus is setting also towards the southwest part of the sky. So this this experiences I wanted to share because there cannot be a sort of a set procedure. All I may be wrong, but all that I have learned from these experiences that there cannot be any set procedure. You have to look for such opportunities. Continuing with that question, how do startups succeed? Is the team obsessively passionate about their ideas? So you just don't pick up an idea. First, you feel the need, and then you chase it passionately. It's all in the execution. Even an outstanding concept can fail to engage its audience if the team isn't ready to do everything to support it. So you have to follow it passionately. You have to follow it with passion. And there should be a kind of compulsion on you to follow it up. Do the founders have domain expertise? Founders should be knowing everything about the space in which they operate. And the most important thing is the market. See, you are having domain expertise, you know your subject, but you have to know the market because this is something which you cannot change. There would be market strategies, there would be evolving situations in the market, and you have to keep complete track of all these things. Are they willing to put in the time? Early startup employees often have intense work schedule. A 2018 survey by MetLife and the US Chamber of Commerce found that startup owners log 14 plus hours work days. It may be more even. If a team isn't willing to devote most of their waking hours to an idea, it may struggle to survive. So these are the qualities which one has to imbibe as an entrepreneur. And then the most important question, that why this idea. So there should be a kind of a need-based survey. It may not be a systematic survey, but you should know the need for it and why now. Why today is the most important time to do it. Now, if it is a new idea, then you have to think that why people haven't tried it before. And if it isn't, then what makes the startups team uniquely able to crack the code? So the word now is very important. There, so the this is where you have to concentrate the particular word now. Can you bring an idea that will make a difference? If you can have an idea which can make a difference, then your startup will hover around these things. You have to do planning. You cannot do everything yourself. You cannot do everything yourself. So you have to create a team. In fact, I use the word team as an acronym. Together, everyone achieves more. It's not an acronym, it's just, uh, it was felt like that. So you create a team. And then you have to make investments very carefully. And while doing the investments, you have to see the market trends. So you are doing the investments. It should start with small investments. Well, there is something called, I didn't want to include in my talk. There are something called scalable startups, and in fact, all those Google, Facebook, they are all scalable startups which had worldwide recognition. But you start with a small investment, and then you grow from it. So you have to look at the resources and the strengths, the strategy, and finally you come out with the product. And it is very much in tune with the second pillar of learning. In the year 1996, the UNESCO Commission for Education in the 21st Century was held in Paris, and the particular convention was named Learning the Treasure Within, which echoes the voice of none other than Swami Vivekananda, that education is the manifestation of perfection already in man. So, learning the treasure within, and in order to uh, reap the fruits of the treasure, well, you have to look for four pillars, and these were called the four pillars of learning: learning to know, learning to be, learning to do, and learning to live together. Now, here I am stressing on the second pillar, learning to be. So, you have to be a dreamer to begin, dreamer in the true sense of the term, not dreaming with your eyes closed, but dreaming with your eyes open. You have to be courageous to execute. You have to be courageous to execute. You have to be receptive to feedback. There can be all sorts of criticism. There can be negative criticism also. But you have to take the positives out of that and reorient yourself, replan, re-execute. So you have to be very much receptive to feedback. And feedback does not mean that you send a questionnaire. Well, all these companies do, make my trip and all that. Every new airlines, they will send a feedback format. But then, of course, it might appear to be a little bit backdated way, but try to take feedback from person. There cannot be a better feedback than through personal contact, and then to be determined to see the logical end. Dreaming, courage, receptive to feedback, and determination to see the logical end. And all with the spirit of the second pillar of learning, learning to be. I'll just quickly go through a case study. I think most of you would be knowing about it. Mansukh Bhai Prajapati. He was born to a very poor potter. His family had already quit their business due to the breakdown of the Machu Dam, and thereafter they migrated to Morbi. In 1980, Mansukh Bhai failed in 10th standard and dropped out of school. Now, originally hailing from Wankaner, Gujarat, today Mansukh Bhai Prajapati is a successful entrepreneur who relished the idea of modernizing the knowledge that the craftsmen of this country carry. So initially he was developing potter, cooler for serving tea, and then he was also trying to have a clay-made tawa. But then all the things, see his determination. He worked hard. He could join a particular tea stall, and he was being paid by the tea stall, but he had to work very, very hard, almost day and night, and the total production of those clay items was got raised by almost 1,000 times by way of his effort, by way of his diligence. And then during this 2001 earthquake at Bhuj, well, it was totally damaged. All those things broke. In fact, all the infrastructure he had got damaged, and but he did not leave. And what he realized at that particular time, that all he needs to create is a clay refrigerator which can run without electricity. And that's how the House of Innovation, Mitti Cool, got started. Mansukh Bhai was called a true scientist by Dr. APJ Abdul Kalam. This is indeed a success story. So please try to find the Mansukh Bhai Prajapati in you. He was called a true scientist by Dr. Kalam. And these are the qualities. I'm just trying to sum up that you should have a vision again based on need, and that need should compel you. You don't have, you have to seek the need, but it should be a kind of a spark which should compel you that this is an area, this is a barren area, but this is a need based area, and we need to develop hard work and passion like Mansukh Bhai, observation skill, and this observation primarily refers to the context of the market. You have to observe the market, you have to observe the customers, you have to observe their attitude, and you should be in a position, you should have the attitude to change yourself, because they are there not for you, you are there for them. Patience and perseverance with an optimistic view, creativity and critical thinking, Well, I've taken these two words from the vision of NEP 2020. NEP 2020 has given tremendous emphasis on competency-based skills, and we can try to relate them. In fact, if you read each and every line of the vision of NEP 2020, and particularly the context reference about competency-based skills, then you'll find these two things coming up time and again: critical thinking and creativity. Even in the standard courses of, say, physics, chemistry, mathematics, history, sociology, geography, and so on and so forth, well, they are emphasizing on creation of multiple choice type questions which are competency based, not just a question that when was Taj Mahal built. You give four options and you have to tick the right option. Not that kind of a question. Give a kind of a question which are called, say, assertion and reason based question, where you can find the competency. Well, that's again about the traditional areas of study, but even for other areas of study, other areas of excellence, you have to bring in critical thinking. And so please try to relate your effort and see whether it is consistent with the recommendations of National Education Policy 2020 or not. Because that would be a great help, and because the NEP 2020 also would be able to guide you to become a good entrepreneur. So before taking a flight to the world of startups, reflect on these points. Know yourself very well. You have to know yourself very well. Tagore, there is a song by Tagore, Apnakei Jana Amar Furabe Na. It's a never-ending journey to learn about yourself. So you have to know yourself very well. You have to identify your strengths. You have to identify your weaknesses. You have to be an informed entity, and nowadays it is not a problem at all. Starting from the newspaper, media, internet is a treasure, and all that. So if you are not informed, then take the blame on yourself. You have to be an informed entity. Go through relevant sources on startups like websites, policies, literature, success stories. Read them as stories. You're sitting idle, go to the internet and read about such stories. Read some inspiring books like Target 3 Billion Innovative Solutions Towards Sustainable Development. You Can Win by Sheep Khera, The Monk Who Sold His Ferrari, Ignited Minds, and so on. Watch YouTube videos on startup stories. Listen to TED Talks. In fact, Mansukh Bhai, that's how I came to know about the details of Mansukh Bhai's journey. TED Talks on success stories. Know about Atmanirbhar Bharat and Make in India policies. Well, you can add to this list, but these are something which just like that came to my mind when I was preparing this PowerPoint presentation. So this I thought that I should try to sensitize you about. And I started with questioning, and I thought that I shall keep questioning towards the end. Are you ready to be the change for yourself, your area? Your area means your locality here and your country. Are you ready to be the change for yourself, your area, your country? If yes, then start dreaming today with your eyes open, as spelled out by Dr. APJ Abdul Kalam. You have to be a dreamer, and as Will Shorter said, that it has to be the embodiment of founder's dream. So you dream with your eyes open. And since I have said so much about dream, I think I should conclude with these few lines from William Butler Yeats. You would be knowing about it, the famous man of literature who got the Nobel Prize in 1923, 10 years after Tagore. And before that, sorry, I just missed one thing. I wanted to tell here that are you ready to be the change for yourself, your area, and your country? Since I remember I made a reference to Tagore, I just recollected that in the year 1934, that is 7 years prior to his death, he almost comes back and tries to take a resolve to develop the own area near Shantiniketan. And that particular area is called Sriniketan. abode of beauty. It's about 4.5 kilometers from Shantiniketan, the abode of peace. And Tagore says that his Vishwabharati is a combination of both Shantiniketan and Sriniketan. Now, Sriniketan is not really a startup, but then once you go there, you'll realize what actually happened there. It started with 2, 3 dilapidated buildings, but then Tagore had a sort of a responsibility. Now, let's see how the compelling need comes. He had a responsibility towards the local people, the local artisan, the local sculptor. In Delhi, if you go to India Habitat Center at the entry point, you see the sculptor of Ramkinkar Bej. So such people were picked up by Tagore, and these local artisans, local handicraft, and that's how it got changed into a rural business model, this Sriniketan. So it is almost like a startup. So somebody had to dream, somebody had to have an idea, and in fact, it was so compelling that even one of the persons who became a friend of Tagore, he came all the way from USA, John Elmhurst, and joined in this particular enterprise. So he, in fact, sort of dedicated this task to the local community by starting his particular collection of poems. Prantik means terminal. There is a railway station also by the name Prantik just after Bolpur. The nearest railway station to Shantiniketan is Bolpur. The next station is Prantik, which is same as the name of that collection of poems. Prantik means terminal, and Tagore says that he is coming to the terminal part of his life, 7 years before his demise. And on 29th April, if I recall correctly, of 1934, he writes that poem, Jabar Shomoy Holo Bihonge, means it's the time for the bird to return to its nest. So, and there, along with several other work, well, it's not that he had a huge capital, because all that he got in his Nobel Prize was spent for developing the university. So it's not that he had huge funds with him, but he had that wish to do for the local people. In fact, the school from where I have studied, Ramakrishna Mission, Narendrapur, well, it came up in a land where all the local people in and around, they have to be rehabilitated, not by way of any kind of compulsion, but by way of a compulsion which occurred to the mind of the founder, Swami Lokeshwarananda. He felt that he should do something for these people. So initially it started at a regular academic institution, and nobody would be knowing about vocational studies on that particular time. I'm talking about 1958. But it occurred to me particularly with an idea to rehabilitate these people. And so this need was very compelling, which I am talking time and again. And if you visit Ramakrishna Mission Narendrapur, more than visiting the school and the college and the upcoming university now, please also visit Lok Shiksha Parishad, which have also been followed in the spirit of startup. So you need a visionary like Swami Lokeshwarananda. I told about Tagore as regards this Sriniketan, and Tagore had this entrepreneurship in his blood. He came from a zamindar family, but again, he didn't have too much of a capital when he started thinking of this Sriniketan. In fact, he was thinking from 1881 when he was 18 years old at Shilaidaho in East Pakistan, now Bangladesh. And then, of course, he got involved in so many other activities, but then he returns to its nest in the year 1934 and concentrates on that. And most of his writings during that particular period has very strong reference to his concept of coming close to the earth, coming close to the people. So as I was telling you that this William Butler Yeats, who reminded me of Tagore, Tagore would not have got the Nobel Prize without the involvement of Yeats. And see his selflessness. He himself got the Nobel Prize in 1923, whereas Tagore got it in 1913. And it was Yeats who was responsible for bringing Tagore to the knowledge of the Western world. It was because of his intervention people got to know about Tagore. And the first Nobel Prize from Asia And of course, first Nobel Prize in Literature from Asia. The next Nobel Prize in Literature from Asia came back in 1968 only, 55 years later, by a Japanese, Yoshinari Kawabata. So W.B. Yeats has contributed a lot to our culture by promoting Tagore to the Western world. And he writes about dreams, dreams under your feet. Had I the heavens embroidered cloths, enwrought with golden and silver light, the blue and the dim and the dark clothes of night and light and the half light. See the lines, enwrought with golden and silver light. I would spread the cloths under your feet. But I being poor, I stress on the word poor, I being poor, I have only my dreams, which was the situation with Tagore while doing Sriniketan. So I spread my dreams under your feet. And when I am talking about startups, it's my dream also that I have come towards the fag end of my life. Well, you can see the future, and when you see the future, you keep dreaming with the dreams which I place under your feet. And so I don't have those heavens embroidered cloths to being spread under your feet. So I have spread my dreams under your feet. Tread softly, उसके ऊपर धीरे चलिए, tread softly, because you tread on my dreams. Thank you so much for giving me a patient hearing.
Thank you very much, sir. So, may I now request you to please stop sharing the PPT? Thank you, sir. I would like to thank you, sir, for that extremely thought-provoking session. Your messages of dreaming with your eyes open, be courageous, be receptive to feedback, have determination, and connect to nature are to be considered as Guru Mantra. Indeed, our students who are aspiring to set up their startups would be highly motivated from your talk. Now, I would like to invite any comments or observations from our listeners. Yes, Dr. Pate.
Sir, thank you very much for such an enlightening lecture, sir. Actually, I could join a little late, so I could not listen to the entire lecture. But I have a small question. That is, if many startups fail and some of the startups become successful, but even the startup initiated by the same person quite often becomes unsuccessful, quite often they become successful. So what could be the most fundamental factor? Because even the startups initiated by the same person sometimes become very successful, sometimes they don't become successful. So it has been observed across the persons across the world, means every startup founder says that some number of his startups have failed and some of the startups. So something which could be the most fundamental factor, means there could be a variety of factors which actually are responsible for success of a startup. But what do you think, sir? Means based on your experience, means what could be the most fundamental factor which contributes the most for the success of a startup? That is just a question which I have.
But there are several factors. In fact, the same person can be successful, and then again, the same person can be unsuccessful because of reasons of reading the situation. I think the answer can be found in the several factors which I have mentioned, and the most important factor is reading the market, because this is something which I and you cannot rule, which I and you cannot govern. It evolves in its own way, and so you have to orient your strategy based on that. So the same person who has become unsuccessful in that particular attempt, definitely he his efforts were not compatible with the requirement of the market. Maybe it was felt to be compatible and in conformity with the need of the market at the beginning, But as it evolved, when he might not have been able to keep proper track of that. It would definitely happen that when in the latter case he is able to do that, so that is because he would have read the market strategy much better. This appears to be the factor. Apart from his own conduct, uh, it may so happen that he was not working as diligently before as he could do at a later stage, since he got some kind of a lesson. So he learned from his failure and he did better at a later stage. So these are personal factors, but the most important factors are the external factors, which is guided by the market. That's
Thank
all
you.
that I can say.
Thank you, sir.
Do we have any other? Yes. Do we have any other comments or observations or questions?
एक मिनट इसको बाहर सब्जी वाले को फ्लोर पे दे आओ जरा सा 2 मिनट
Sir, I would invite your observation on the on one aspect. You had highlighted that there are many areas of about 17 of them enlisted by the Sustainable Development Goals, and they all cater to almost our everyday situations, if I may put it that way. So, for a student who just wants to even start with an idea, that as I mean, if you think about that, so where should one actually start? Will they start generating idea first, or would they uh, go ahead with whatever ideas they had with respect to the areas that you have listed, or could there be any other areas listed? Means, I mean, the sustainable development goals that you had mentioned. So basically what I'm trying to ask is, sometimes what happens is young people just get up and say, okay, let me start something. They don't have any idea, but they want to have a startup. I mean, we had this experience with some of our students in our workshops also, कि हम कुछ करना चाहते हैं, like that. They don't have any idea to begin with, but some of them do have an idea and they look for refinement of that idea. So are your what is your advice to both the groups? The first group which says that okay, kuch karte hain, and the other group that says I have an idea and I want to go ahead with that.
Right, it's a very pertinent question. Now, in fact, there cannot be any one-line answer again, but kuch karna chahte hain is very good. That will, that desire to do something is very good. But this idea should come as a compulsion. It should come as a spark. So, kuch karna chahte hain means that person has to observe. That person has to observe things around. Right? And one who has an idea, if that idea meets the need of the society, meets the need of a particular community, then he should go ahead with the kind of flowchart. Of course, again, it was not a very systematic flowchart, but then he has to see how this idea can be put into reality. But if you do not have an idea, it's not really thinking of an idea. That idea should come as a spark, as a compelling need. As I was talking about our Shamiji, it was a compelling need for him. He felt that so many persons have got apparently displaced, so they need rehabilitation. So this was a very strong commitment. He was not compelled to do that by any external force or something like that. So similarly, like recently during the pandemic, our Indian Association of Physics Teachers, we have conducted examination for this natural. Dr. Sharma would be knowing practical examination, and that was done under proper proctorship. And if you allow me to use the word, though I don't like that word, under proper proctorship and surveillance. So that required some kind of a mechanism, and that was created on a small scale for those 40 odd students. Now, if it is necessary, it can be expanded for so many other students. So the spirit is that of startups. They didn't do as a, so the need emerged. So the need has to emerge. The idea has to emerge. One cannot think and get an idea. So that you have to tell the first group of people, and to the next group, well, they can be guided by the experiences which can be acquired in the manner I have told. That's all that I can say.
Yeah, thank you. So that was very important actually, about for the people who just want to do something, but they're thinking, okay, what to do. So that your message was very important. Your advice was very important. That it has to meet the needs actually, and it has to come as a spark, as an inspiration. Then go from there.
Mhm.
Yeah. Mamta, madam, would
Namaskar,
you
sir.
like to? Yeah, please go ahead.
Namaskar, sir. It was a pleasure hearing you, sir, and the way you always motivate our learners. Today also, it was uh, experience worth listening to, and naturally, the way you have said that it has to be come from your inside and self motivation is the best for our learners. And it is sir, during these meetings also, and the way this division is working, sir, many of our learners, they are being benefited well by the experiences that and the guidance that you people have been sharing with them. Thank you, sir. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much.
Momita, can I?
Yes, please.
Thank you so much. Sir, it was really a pleasure to listen to you. The way you presented the aspects in very simple language, and it was all with such beautiful examples from the field of games and from the lives of great personalities such as Swami Vivekananda and Nobel laureate Rabindranath Tagore. So I hope students got so much of interest, insights in such an interesting manner. And I really liked you laid out the points that are important for starting on this entrepreneurship journey, because so many people aspire to be entrepreneurs and to have startups, but the basics that you stressed are to start with proper insight, to have an idea, to develop it, and to nurture that passion. If you have that passion, then you need that courage also to face the risk. So it was really a pleasure to listen to you, sir. Thank you so much for being with us. It was really so nice. Thank you, sir.
Thank you for the opportunity.
Thank you. Now I request Dr. Sharma to kindly say a few words, please.
We are really thankful to you, sir, for giving such a interesting and that informative talk on this starting a startup in a very layman's language. In fact, I can say, because any beginner that requires this kind of insight and presentation in a very simple language that you have highlighted with so many examples from daily life, that is very important, because whatever that stars, I can say that you have mentioned aligning the stars, those you have highlighted with the examples from our day-to-day life, and that makes, I think, is very joyful also for the listeners, even for all of us, to understand the concepts, whatever concepts you have highlighted. First thing, to need of that market survey, the reading the market, that is very important, because Dr. Pandey had asked many times, the same person is doing a startup, sometimes it is failing and sometimes it's successful. So you have very well highlighted that key aspect of that, the reading the market, reading the customer, their need, and also learning from their experiences, because as you have highlighted many times, when we take some step initiative, we learn from that, and next time, if we are taking care of that, I think it makes us successful also. These all things very well you have highlighted, and I would like to thank you very much from the side of all our faculty members from
Thank
NCID,
you. Thank
and
you.
from the side of all the students who are watching us live on Facebook and YouTube. And this lesson is, I think, going to be a very important session for all the students. Thank you very much for sparing time, and I hope in future also you will continue with similar kind of support and guidance to the NCID and the students. Thank you. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Yes, Dr. Naik, would you like to say something?
First of all, thank you, sir. Namaskar for sparing your time at this age. क्योंकि साहब मुझे तो याद है कि साहब रिटायर करते हुए करीब 6-7 साल हो गया. So you must be around 70. आप इतने energetic and we get inspired when we listen to you. और जैसे डॉक्टर शर्मा सर बोले कि it was in a completely layman's language. Everybody could understand what you tried to say, sir. I'm sure our learners would be benefited from your presentation, sir. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Dr. Naik. Do we have any other observations from our listeners here? So, if not, then let us end the session today. I would like to extend my gratitude, express my gratitude to our speaker, Dr. Chinmay Kumar Ghosh, for sparing his valuable time to give this inspiring talk. I thank all the directors and heads, the directors of regional centers, faculty members, and academics of IGNOU for attending today's session. I thank Mr. Rajesh Sharma, head of the Public Information Unit. I thank Dr. O.P. Sharma, Director NCID, and my colleagues, Dr. Josna Dikshit and Dr. Sujata Santosh, for their untiring support. I thank Mr. Pawan Kumar for extending his assistance in the smooth conduct of this program. So this brings us to the end of today's session. We hope to see you next week. Till then, namaste.
Thank you, sir. Namaste.
Thank you. Namaskar.